Hello and welcome to The Gist. I'm your host, Chris Vetrano. I am here every week to break down all the things happening across Bravo and pop culture. And today we are going to dive into last week's episodes because Scandoval has arrived and OMG. Guys, I am freaking out over last week's Vanderpump Rules. But before we get to that, a couple of quick things just want to go through. June is heating up because we've got all kinds of trailers dropping. Black Mirror is back. Which I don't know if you guys have watched Black Mirror, but if not, I highly recommend it. There is some incredible episodes, and Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek is in one of the episodes coming up in June. So can't wait to see that. Also, and just like that, the Sex and the City sequel series is also coming back to HBO Max, or I guess now they're rebranding as just Max. So in Max coming, or on Max in June, and just like that will be back for Sex and the City fans. But for Bravo news, we've got the highly anticipated OC trailer. It finally dropped last week. And we know that it is now premiering on June 7th. So that is when we are going back to the OG ladies of the OC. And, we waited a really long time. There's been a lot of hype about what was coming this season. We obviously know that Tamra's back. She's back in a big way. We have a new housewife who seems to be bringing some heat. So love to see that. Taylor, as we know from Beverly Hills, is our first housewife to transition to a new city. And so she is a friend of. So we get to see a little bit of our Taylor Armstrong. And then, in all the cast photos and things we have, Taylor has her own cast photo. And then, of course, the full-time ladies, which Emily and Gina, it's a hot topic online. People are like, how are they still here after 5 seasons? These women have given us nothing. Gina seems to be in the trailer. She's got a little bit going on. Emily, though, I don't know why she's still with us. And the fact that like our New York housewives are gone, and you've got like folks like Phaedra who weren't on TV for so long, and Dorinda, and people that are just good for TV. I don't know how Emily is still there, but she is. And then the trailer ends in the most epic way. It just is like them opening a door, and Vicky Gunvalson's horrifying look on her face is the way that trailer ends. She didn't get a cast photo, so she's not an official friend of, she's obviously nowhere else in the trailer because that was kind of the big reveal. But the one thing that I kept hearing was that we were getting, some Heather Dubrow cheating Terry drama that never shows up in the trailer at all. And they gave like little synopsis of each of the ladies and kind of what their storylines are going to be this season, and does not mention anything about that. So I'm not really sure what's going on. There's been rumors that Heather and Terry threatened to sue Bravo if certain stories got told, but if that's the case and they took all of that stuff out, this is no longer the Real Housewives, and that would be really disappointing. So I thought we were going to get a little bit more of an explosion with this trailer, and so I was a bit underwhelmed. It seems like we've got something, but it wasn't giving everything that I had hoped. But you never know, because sometimes when everything is in the trailer, you get disappointed when the actual season comes, and it just is like, oh, well, I already knew that was happening because it happened in the trailer. Kind of like this upcoming, or this current season of Summer House. And so I just kind of feel like everything could potentially be still to come. All of the good juiciness that we were hoping for from these oranges potentially is still to come. But we finally got the trailer. We know June 7th, the series will be back. So OC fans, you must be happy now. We'll see. So that's a little bit of the breaking news. I mentioned Summer House, so we'll just sort of start there and sail our way through until we get to this Vanderpump, guys. I'm still shaking. I okay. I almost want to start there, but let me just quickly go through our other two shows. So Summer House, really it's all just about like this Danielle Lindsay drama. We pick up with Carl and Danielle, excuse me, are continuing their conversation from last week. And they think that, Carl's like, I just want to make sure that you're supportive of us. And it's not because we dated back in 2015 for like a month and she's like, God, no. She's like, I'm supportive. I'm your friends, but you guys are moving really fast. And so as a friend, I'm just sharing that information. So they end in a good place. And Carl like seems to be in a good place with Danielle. Um, Meanwhile, there's the other group, because last week the two groups sort of separated. The other group is out. Sam and Corey are getting hot and heavy. Amanda, oh no, not Amanda. Lindsay is just like, I mean, she's old Lindsay. She's definitely turned up, which we love to see until she gets home and old Lindsay is there. So Carl rehashes the conversation with her, and Lindsay just kind of goes off, and Lindsay is just pissed. And the reason she's pissed is because Carl and Danielle made up, and she feels like, you know, Carl, you didn't have my back. Danielle's still not good with me. Why are you guys now good? And now she really felt like she was on the outs. So she goes ballistic, as we've seen Lindsay do many times. It makes for good television. And she says a lot of really hurtful things. They end up fighting like in their bed, and she's just kind of yelling at him. And keeping in mind, Carl is totally stone cold sober, so he's just sort of laying there taking it. And the thing that was so hurtful that she said is that she was like, you can never make anything just about me, and nothing can be about me. I can't even have my birthday be about me. And as we learned in the episode prior, her birthday is the same day that Carl's brother passed away. And so, for her to have been so supportive on that day and then say that, it's not great look. So, but then the next morning they brush everything under the rug. The girls go shopping. The rest of the house stays home to play games, I guess, like drinking games and stuff, which is what we love to see, by the way. We love to see them actually like doing things, not so much laying around in beds. And so, so that's kind of going on. And by the way, what is with Amanda eating black olives straight out of the can? First of all, I think black olives are one of the most disgusting things in the planet. And I know that I might be alone in some of that feeling, but oh God, I felt like she kept doing it too. Like throughout the episode, there was like the olives was the like seventh cast member. It was like there was just olives in all these scenes. So I had PTSD over that. That was like really alarming. But everyone's having fun. The girls come back from shopping. They kind of get involved. And then Amanda, Sierra, and Paige go to read their fertility tests. Because Amanda has been having some issues, and the girls were worried about her. Hers comes back fine, but it's Sierra who found out that she has less eggs than average, and she had a hard time like sort of dealing with that. And this is real shit that women growing up are going through. And so when they're finding out this information, it can be scary, I suppose. So, we're seeing those things, and I appreciate all of that. And then it just like, it seemed to get into Danielle and Lindsay stuff again, because Danielle's with the guys around, sitting around. And then Lindsay comes over and is like, what are you talking about? And everyone's like, we're talking about you. And we're trying to like make amends, and we're trying to figure out. And it's just like the two go at it again. And it's clear that like they're on opposing sides, But honestly, I don't really know why, because they both seem to be saying two completely different things, and neither one of them is hearing like what the other person is saying. But yeah, I mean, Lindsay's always defensive. Danielle's seemingly like very angry about the situation, and it's just like they can't figure it out. And so they ended up Danielle ends up storming off. Um, and then they had like a bonfire. Everyone's kind of having some sex talk. That's fun. I honestly, I'm just loving that we're having fun in this episode. People are like doing things, like playing games, doing stuff, having sex talks. You know, there's drama happening. There's like real storylines happening. It's been a long season of not a lot of that. And this felt like old Summer House to me. So I really liked this episode. But then I noticed that Paige made a comment that she was like, this feels like the longest day ever. And I'm like, well, that's because you didn't spend the entire day in bed. So, oh, and then the next morning, Sierra with her orange juice is like, guys, what's the date? I need to decide if this orange juice is expired because it says September 29th. And Paige is like, well, it's August. So, like, you're good. And she's like, I know, but what day in August? Because, like, this could be, and she's not getting it. And the girls, I loved it. Paige was giving great face and was like, what are you talking about? It's August. Like, you don't even need to know what day in August because and then Sierra finally comes to. She's like, yeah, it's been a long weekend. Sorry. Um, Everyone kind of heads home, back to the city as the episode's kind of wrapping. We find out Sam and Corey are headed to Montauk to see, she says, to see if she can get the ick. And so, we know that they're going to hook up. And so this will be the beginning of all of that. And then Carl goes to get the engagement ring. And so we see that he's picking it up. And then this preview for next week shows that the proposal's coming. So next week, we're going to get the Carl proposal. Andrea is back. And then, by the way, Maya is back in the house next week. And it made me realize, where has Maya been? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because I really liked Maya. But like, I just realized I was like, oh, Maya hasn't been in like half of this season. So I was like, is she written out? And then all of a sudden she's like showing up again. So I wonder if we're going to get an explanation as to where she's been or if she's just like popping back into the story now. But anyway, so all that's coming next week. Then back in Ireland on Real Housewives of New Jersey, the girls are kind of wrapping up their dinner from the last episode. Melissa is hammered on the bus ride home. She's saying all kinds of stuff, but the best is that she's like, "I'm gonna drunk text my ex," and Teresa's like, "Her ex." I mean, so that's not gonna like look well given what we now know about Marge's rumor that Melissa was caught kissing a guy in the back of a limo. Um, so we'll see that play out. I know. I think that comes out in the finale, but so that definitely the editors knew what they were doing with her saying that. The next morning, Polly's mother comes to visit the ladies. First of all, she is just the most adorable little thing. I loved every moment of her on our screen. I was like, well, she's a star. So how do we get more of her? Like, do we need Real Housewives of Ireland so that we can get her? Because I need her on my screen more. Um, but what was also so great is that like the girls were all getting along. They were like having fun. They were making jokes. Even Teresa gave Melissa a compliment and she was like, you know, that Melissa was really great with her parents and like they were telling jokes and stuff of back in the day. And, of course, then Melissa goes into her confessionals like, I might still be drunk because Teresa just gave me a compliment. But whatever. Then they go to the hen party, which I don't know if you guys saw Real Housewives of Dubai. I know that like it was a bit of a sleeper. But Caroline Stanberry has a hen party, but it's like on a boat. It's like on a like I mean not a boat, it's a yacht. I mean, it's like a extravagant party. They're having like fun, dancing like crazy, drinking. This was not that. This was on a farm. They played catch the cock. And I also, again, Teresa picks Melissa as her partner to do that activity. And I'm like, Teresa is really trying here. I was, I feel like she's potentially not getting enough of the credit for actually trying to like turn this around. Then they do this like Teresa's life, where everyone sketches on the wall like memories of Teresa's. And there was actually like a really touching moment because she cries because she's like, it's supposed to be this really nice sort of game that they do. And she got really, really vulnerable and was like, I'm really worried someone's going to draw jail bars. And like, I don't want to remember my time going to jail. And everyone was like, oh God, no, we like definitely won't do that. Like, that's not what this is supposed to be. But she was really emotional by that. And then when all the ladies kind of finished their drawings and Melissa was crying about, showing them as a family, as, Joe and Teresa with their parents, coming over from Italy. And, they end up hugging and crying. And it's like, it's tender. We want to see, a little bit of hope for these two, given that they are family. But then, as the ladies continue going down, Teresa's like saying something really sweet about like, memories and like back in the day and the family. And like Melissa's like, I don't want to go down memory lane. Like, we just need to move forward. And Teresa's like, okay, well, I guess like we'll move forward. But then Teresa's like, but I really want you like to all be in the wedding and be like a part of it in some kind of way. And maybe Gino can walk down the aisle and, maybe we can do, she's like brainstorming how to like get them into the wedding. And then I think it was Jennifer was like, so are you inviting them all to be in the wedding? And Teresa's like, well, no. So I don't really know what she was doing, but it was a bit confusing. But then we learned that Louis has asked Bill to be in the wedding as well, which, Melissa then is upset about because she is, of course, going to go run and tell Joe about it. And let's see what else. I guess like Danielle has her breakdown because she's like starting to see the Melissa and Teresa stuff. And she's like, well, at least you guys are talking. Like, I don't even talk to my brother and sister-in-law. And, she's like being very like emotional about that, which again makes sense. But then we go back to Jersey, which I was like fine without any guy scenes the last couple of episodes. I was like, it's kind of refreshing not to have to see all the guys like forcing these like guys' nights. But then we get a guys' night. And so Frank, it's hosted at Marge's house. And Frank is involved or invested in some cannabis business, and so he's like bringing over a bunch of weed for the guys to like smoke and eat and do all the things. I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but like just a couple episodes ago, Marge was calling Jennifer a drug addict for smoking pot, but now it's okay for her husband to host an entire party about smoking weed. And not only that, but she hired a food truck to come and like feed the guys. So that was a bit confusing. It definitely didn't explain her stance on the drug addict of it all. And then, it comes out that Bill's in the wedding and, Joe says that he's an after Phil. He's like, oh yeah, that's just because like they had no one else to be in it. And you got asked to be in the wedding just as like an afterthought. And it's like, God, that's so rude. It's so rude. And I get that he's like angry that he's not in it, but like he is such a pig. Anyways, so yeah, they're all smoking weed and Joe says that he's not going to get high, but then he does. Um, and at one point he's like upset because he's like, yeah, Teresa tried to bring up my daughter, and that's like that's unacceptable. But then he completely loses his train of thought, but then brings up Teresa's kids, and is like, well, where my Teresa's daughters are so disrespectful and da da da. And it's like, again, we're just like, everyone's talking out of both sides here. But there was one sort of funny moment. There was a moment where Joe was cuddling up next to Frank and like leaning up on his arm because he was so stoned. And he's just playing with his vein. There's like a big vein poking out of his arm and he's like playing with it. It was kind of wild. Um, but I did laugh at that, even though I'm not Team Joe right now. That was a fun moment. And then the ladies are having their last night in Ireland, having dinner. And I just have to say, Jen is so funny when she is drunk. Like, drunk Jen is great television. And everyone was just laughing at her because they did a whiskey tasting and she obviously overserved herself. But yeah, and then, we're trying to like put a pin in the Ireland trip and everyone's like, so are we leaving on good terms? And of course, like Danielle is like, well, I don't know where I stand with Rachel. And Rachel is like, gets into it. And then suddenly again, Margaret is the one that's screaming. And Margaret, I think, shows her true colors because she tells her that she'll have problems with her family for the rest of her life because she doesn't forgive and forget. And that's such a hurtful thing, especially knowing that Danielle was just so emotional about her family problems at lunch. It was too far. And all the ladies were like, whoa, that was too much. That was too much. Let's put a pin in this. Let's like move on. Let's just go to bed. And so Ireland trip is over. And then, so we're going to continue to move on next week. And then we arrive at Vanderpump. Okay. So there's so many things here. So the episode first is, it starts out, Katie and Lala are rehashing the Abby situation of, Allie seeing, which we learned this time that James was with her. I thought it was just Allie who saw her, but James and Allie saw Raquel and Tom at the Abbey dancing alone. And Katie and Lala are talking about it. And Katie's like, I do think it's weird. I mean, I've known Sandoval for many, many years. I've never like danced alone with him and been alone with him. So, so it seems like Katie's starting to piece something together. She's like, something doesn't smell right. And then we go to this scene with the two Toms at a food truck. And, it's so clear the fact that Tom Sandoval used to be a hired paid actor is laughable because he is so bad at it. It's like so clear that Schwartz knows because neither one of them can really act. It's so clear that Schwartz knows at this point that something has happened between the two of them. And like the way that Sandoval is responding to it all, and they're really trying to make this narrative of like Ariana, really trying to just make her look bad. It's like Ariana, doesn't react well to things. She's like, she's so critical of everything that I do. They're talking about the fertility stuff. And, Tom Schwartz is like, do you even want to be doing that? And Tom's like, I don't really know. I don't really know why we would be. And, he starts to say like, I'm wondering if we should even be together because, I make her a latte every morning. And Schwartz is like, yeah. And does she reciprocate? And he's like, no, and it's just like, they're really trying to like plant the seed. And that feels really forced. So I think this was part of Tom Sandoval's plan was like, I'm going to change the narrative so it looks like Ariana is the reason that I'm being pushed away. So then we go to James and Allie's place. They're talking about the Abbey again. She says that she mentioned something to Katie, and Katie said something that she felt like insinuated that Tom and Ariana are in an open relationship because she said something to the effect of like, Ariana doesn't have a lot of rules for Tom or something. So, Allie interpreted that as that they were in an open relationship. So she's like, I feel like I need to like tell somebody. So maybe I tell Sheena what's going on. So then then the girls, Ariana and Katie, are at their new sandwich shop, which is a tiny little shop, but apparently it's in like an incredible part of town. So good for them. I think it'll be very successful. And Lisa shows up because like Lisa apparently is the one that's like gonna help everyone in LA open a restaurant, because she's just like in everyone's business. But they start talking about the Raquel and Oliver thing, and Lisa's like, I can say for a fact that he is separated, and they're like, that's not what we're hearing. But Ariana says something to the effect of like, I don't want to see the gavel brought down on Raquel because I don't feel like she's done anything wrong. And oh, it's like these are some really cringy things that are just like, oh, the more that you watch people saying these things, it's like watching milk expire. It's like, oh God, it's like that didn't age. That is not going to sit in that fridge for long. Um, and then Lala and James are at the bar, kind of deep diving. I think they're soulmates, guys. I think that I need them together. Oh, okay. I do. I need Lala and James together. But aside from that, then we go to the fertility place, and Tom Sandoval says he's there to get his jizz results to the nurse. I think that was a really disgusting display. We learn that Ariana's grandma has passed away. That's why she's not with him at the doctor's office. But they call because, of course, he brings Schwartz to talk about his sperm count. And but they call Ariana on FaceTime, and then Ariana's kind of like rehashing, like, the death of her grandma, who she's like, she was like my best friend, and I used to hug her really tight every time I would see her because I was always worried it would be the last. And then she's like, I just went through the death of my dog. I just went through, or not just, but she has been through the death of her father. And she's like, I've been through these things before, but she's like, I just need a break. I just need a break. And that was heartbreaking to see because you just know that she's about to have her whole life just implode in a matter of, well, maybe a week from this point for us. And then Allie and Sheena have their meetup, and Sheena basically debunks that she's like, there is no open relationship. Katie is disgusting for saying that, which again, I don't think Katie said that. But so she's upset. She's trying to turn it around on Katie. Allie brings up the Abbey, and Sheena's just like, yeah, I'm okay with, I would be okay with it if it were Brock. And, she's like, I would be so okay with it that I would be fine with Brock sleeping in the same bed with Raquel. Again, cringy moment. Especially because there's been these rumors of Brock and Raquel actually hooking up, which I don't think are accurate, but still, it's like that's the kind of stuff now that we know Scandoval is happening, that like these comments are just so crazy. And another comment, Sheena's like in her confessional, like everyone wants to make Raquel out to look like the bad guy and all of these things. And it's pretty wild. But then we get to the beach day that James is hosting, and Tom Schwartz meets Satchel. Katie pays him no mind, which I love. But you can tell he's kind of like worked up about it. Like you can see that he's just kind of like, oh wow, like Tom had like a little tinge of something going on. And then, he starts going off on James and just kind of teasing him and poking fun at him about his DJ set. And, James is trying to share like this successful thing that he's doing and, that he's really excited about. And James throws his drink on him, which, is a very old school James Kennedy move, white Kanye. But the thing that I loved is that on Watch What Happens Live after the episode, uh, James was like, well, if you watch, I actually pour out about half of my beer first before I throw it in his face because I'm respectful. It's like that's kind of epic. Um, and then what else happens? Oh, Sheena tells Sandoval about the rumor about the Abbey. And, he kind of waited to see. He's like, oh, it's funny you brought that up. But then Sheena doesn't let him say what he was going to say. And instead is like, isn't that crazy? Like, Katie must be nuts. And then he just jumps on that train and is immediately like, oh yeah, this is ridiculous, this is so stupid. And so he jumps on that, he kind of gets skates by um everybody. After like the drink throwing and all the stuff, everyone sort of heads inside. And Schwartz and like Raquel and James are all kind of like making up, and they're just like, let's do a shot together or whatever. And then that just like goes sour real quick. Like Tom just starts going after James again. And it's like, you can just tell Schwartz is pissed. He's watching his wife with another man who she actually really likes. And he's just now a scapegoat in the Sandoval storyline. So, and his business can't open and all these things are happening. And then he like starts going in on Lala, and Lala lets him have it. And thank God, because like I've really become disgusted with Schwartz in the way that he's acted in these last few episodes. And I'm like, wow, he is a piece of shit. And as we start to really think back to when he poured a drink on his own girlfriend at the time, but now ex-wife, Katie's head. I mean, so he has done just some horrible, horrible things. And so when he was like trashing Lala, and like, I was like, oh God, I was so glad that she just like let him have it. And then of course he does this thing where he's like, oh Lala, come back, come back. But it's like, no, like the more people need to just start moving on with their lives without these Toms in their life. And I could be fine without them on our screens, because it really kind of disgusts me. Um, but then, again, where people start bringing up the Abbey around Sandoval, and Sandoval's like, yeah, Ariana's really mad at you, Katie. And she's like, why is she mad at me? He's like, you know what you're spreading. And so he brought that up, and then everybody's just like, going in on it, and it's like chaos. Everyone's just screaming at each other. And then in the confessional, the producer says, has anything ever happened between you and Raquel physically? And Tom, again, horrible liar, horrible actor. It's one of the like most spine chilling moments on television, because he lies straight to the producer's face. Then he's like, no, man. I mean, that would be like, I mean, that would be as like true as like, oh. And he's like, can't figure it out. And then he's like, as if it was like Katie. Ooh. It's like, no, no, no. He's such a liar. That in that moment makes him a horrible, horrible human being, which we already knew, but it's like, it's in our face. Um, but yeah, so he storms off. Then we get the preview for next week, and it's all about to happen. It's out of control. I'm just, I mean, obviously now with these like rumors about Raquel and the Abbey, it's people are starting to suspect. Like people are starting to be like, this is something seems afoot. Some people are like not as like bought in, because like the Sheena, um, who's like, well, they're just friends. Like, yeah, they're just like best friends, but that's all about to change. And so I did watch the first 7 minutes of the next episode, because they are available. So if you haven't done that, you can see it, or hold off, because it really kind of ends in a place that like your heart will just be beating. Mine's been beating all weekend after watching. I it's insane. Like everyone is starting to like fully understand what's happening. We learn Raquel spent the night at Tom Sandoval's after some hot tubbing, and the stories don't add up. I mean, at this point, like Lisa knows that this is going on, because like I said it in last week's episode. I was like, I wonder if Lisa knows, because she's really kind of pushing on like Tom's buttons about Raquel. And so I was like, I wonder if she was like had some kind of inkling, or if the producers had like fed her something that this could be going on. Um, But yeah, after this next episode, when you guys see what happens, it's so wild. It is wild. So that's all coming, and I can't wait. It's coming this week. We are going full in on Scandoval this week. So that's our episode, guys. I've got to recover from that, but I'm very excited for all of our episodes for this week. And um, Atlanta is back on Sunday. So we get our peaches back on our TV screens. Sunday nights are going to be wild again, and I can't wait. And so I will be here next week to break down that premiere, and of course, New Jersey, Summer House, and the Scandoval. So don't forget to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And thanks so much for listening. I hope that everyone has an incredible week. And until next week, bye.